We're going to do the Tree of Life today, and you're going to be creating with Michelle Wiebe here at Debbie Markle's Art Studio, and we're going to have lots of fun. I like working on a background that's wet. The reason for that is the colors just can move and blend and give me lots of kind of creative, interesting points to work with. So I'm just going to start with a little bit of my blending solution on the background, and then I'm going to work in some colors, and then I'm going to take a little twist and show you how I do my little world within the world. All right, so again, just putting some alcohol in the background, just enough to know that it's got some wetness. Going to move it a little bit just so it's not all in the same spot. All right, so you can see that I kind of wanted my lightest point being in the middle to kind of look like I had a bit of a light element behind my tree. And then I wanted the outers to be a little bit darker. So I'm using some pitch black in my corners, just kind of dropping it in there. And then we're going to work in some of our denim blue, just to kind of frame the outside. I'm going to come in with some of that denim in the bottom, just to kind of balance out, kind of almost give it a little bit of a framework. And a little bit more of that pitch black. Then I'm going to come in here with a little bit of my coral, my salmon, and I'm going to put them into the middle. That was the salmon, this is the coral. And then we're going to come in with some of my, what do we got here? We got some mermaid. And we're going to get her working in with some of these darker colors up in the sky and a little bit down at the bottom. All right. And then we're just going to kind of move these colors around. We want kind of an organic blending process. That's really why I do this. And I want to see how those colors are going to play out. And if I want to make it go a little quicker, I just add some air. And what that does is it disperses the colors, but it's also evaporating the alcohol that leaves us with the color. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of a blending solution up top here to lighten this. And again, we're just going to move her around. You can see already you're getting all these cool effects. And I don't want to over mix it too much because you can see in here that all those colors will start to kind of make a bit of a muddy brown. So I kind of want to keep the colors moving without making it too mixed. I want my colors to stay true to their own. A little bit of mixing's good. And we're just going to add a little bit more of our ink in there. Yeah, a little bit more of our blending solution. Okay. And you just let it kind of go. Just let it kind of happen. Now you can see within that is at the bottom I have a little bit of a village or a city. So I'm just going to kind of move my colors around here to kind of fill in all my space. So when I go taking out some ink to give the feel of another world, that I have something to kind of lift color out of. And it's got some good texture. So up top here, we're just going to make sure we're getting all those corners covered. And sometimes that's what I find, you just have to kind of move some of the colors to where you need them, if they didn't decide to go there. And we got a little piece of something happen there. Just get that out of the way. All right, and then I'm going to use some air. All right. There we go. All right. And if you ever get any little specks of dust or things coming in the way, just pick them up with your brush and just tap them off onto the paper towel. All right, so you can see this is a little bit darker on the edges. And if I want it lighter, I could always just go in and tap out some color, but that's okay. I'm going to leave it a little bit darker this time for this version. Add a little bit on my sides. I think we're going to take the air and just push some of that color down. And you'll notice if you use the air too long, straight blasts, it gets really cold and you can get some kind of, I would say, condensation coming out of there, which isn't always a good thing. So just caution with that. Going and putting in a little bit more of my salmon. And I think we're just going to add a little bit more of the coral. And I think we're just going to add a couple drops of the alcohol here, just because I want a nice light spot there. Okay, so we're just going to let this dry a little bit. And we have some white spots showing, and at this point you can either say, do I want that to be my sky, or do I want that to be my base? And there's lots of times where I've gone in and had to switch it around just because it seemed like it would work better for the picture. Okay. All right, so there's our background. So now what happens is, as this is drying, I have a circle that I had to make. So I'm just using a piece of a resin piece I made, but this here was the perfect size for me, so that's why I went with it. I have to get this a little bit drier before I can go on with my circle, or it's just gonna bloom away. So we're just gonna add a little bit of air to that, just to make sure we're going in on a drier surface. All right, and then you're just gonna take your circle. You can do any size of circle, of course it has to fit onto your paper. And then I just kind of decided how I wanted it placed. And then I just dropped it down. And then I'm just gonna take my little mini guy, so my little microfiber brush, taking a little bit of alcohol. And all we're doing here is we're just going to go around the outside. Nothing too serious. And we're just going to make an outline. And this is where we're going to put our tree of life in it. And now this circle might, you know, bloom a little, might kind of need a little touch up after you're done. But not to worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be visible. And we can always go and add and take away. So we're going to lift this off, and we've got a bit of an outline of a circle that I can see that I'm working with. And I'm just going to, now that I've got my circle kind of guide, we're just going to kind of keep going. And I'm just going to keep working that circle just so I can have it stand out enough so I know where I'm working within. And I'm just trying to lift off the ink that's on the background at this point. And again, you can just kind of etch away at it, and you'll see the ink lifting. Clean off your little brush and go back in. If you keep just going without tapping off with the color, it just keeps picking up more color. And if you get it blooming a little bit, no worries. That just kind of gives some more interest to it. Okay. I'm going to work the bottom a little bit here. So that's enough for me to see where I'm going, and I can come back and work on that after to get a little more definition on that. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to tap into the bottom here with one of our flat brushes. This one has a little bit of black on it, and that's perfectly fine. So at this point, I just want to kind of create like some mountains down below here. And again, this doesn't have a lot of detail. All I'm doing is just dragging my brush with alcohol through my inks down here and just trying to kind of create the feeling of some mountains. I'm going to do that on both sides and just kind of shape them in there. And what it needs to kind of have a feeling is just that there's a place below. And so we're going to take some alcohol and just work that. And as you tap in and touch around, you'll see how the ink lifts differently for each area. And I'm going to kind of want to take some color out of here because I want this to look like it's actually some water. Okay. And we can always pop some color in there if we want a little more interest. But right now we're just going to kind of work on just getting the foreground in. Now this here is just looking a little too dark in that spot there, and this is looking too white, so we're just going to pull a little bit of that black in, soften that, see what that does. Okay. All right, so I kind of got the idea of what I'm going for here. So now I'm going to start working on my tree. So with my tree, I want to kind of make it look like it's glowing almost from the inside. So I'm going to start with one of these little guys. And we're going to take us a nice espresso. So we're going to do a little bit of a different colored tree on this one. The espresso is a nice dark brown. Not too dark, but nice and coffee-like. All right, tiniest microfiber brush, and we're coming up from the bottom. Now you can see on this one, I did the roots kind of swirling into each other like they were endlessly connected. So first I'm going to work on the upper part of the tree, and then I'm going to come back down, and we can work in the other elements that we're going for. So this is supposed to look like this is almost like the tree of life in a separate container, in a separate world. So the world within, that's what we're going to call this guy. And again, when you're doing the tree, try to just, imagine it filling out that circle. Again, it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical or anything, just want it to kind of, and then as you start working on those roots, you can start doing the circling. I'll just drag them out and loop them back around. And do the same thing and just keep doing that. And I think it's kind of like those roots are just looking pretty interesting. And again, you want them to kind of balance with the top portion of the sides of the tree. So as you kind of grow your tree, you might need to extend your roots. And you can see how it just pushes those other colors right away. And you get those kind of darker outlines, which always kind of have a nice effect. And as your ink evaporates in your cups, you're going to get, say in one color of ink, you could get 5 to 7 different colors. Just as the ink evaporates, it leaves a darker version of itself. And so each time, if you want it to give it a stronger color, you just let it breathe a bit, and let some of that isopropyl evaporate. And I'm going to extend these roots out a little, just to kind of balance out the top of the tree. And I got some really cool effects that happened in that background there. Some nice little speckles that really create some interest. And I think that was from when we were moving the air with the can. So again, on my trees, we're just gonna let them happen. And then let your roots do the funky twists. And you can go back over them if you need to strengthen up a root or add another one in. Okay. Make our trunk a little bolder. I'm going to just extend it to fill the circle. Not completely, but enough so that it's kind of balanced. Okay. Now this is one of my favorite parts of the tree, is where I get to come in with the my little dabber. So this here is just a felt pad. That's one that's been well used. And this is just a little wooden block, kind of a stamper. And it comes with some spare felts. You put that bad boy on. And we're going to work with a little bit of the mixative. So give her a shake. we're going to come on there and just lay a bunch of random drops. And then just trying to think of a blue that'll pop. Maybe we'll go with some, well, let's try an indigo just to see. Curious me says, let's see. And we're just going to do some dabbing. So right now I'm just going to tap in some of my leaf. Now what that says to me is this is a little bit dry, so I'm going to add a little bit of alcohol to it. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of my stream to it. Woo! Getting a little colored up here. All right. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with my tapping. Ooh, I like it. So that indigo's definitely got lots to say in a good way. And I'm just going to tap up around. Got a little bit of a bump there. Oh, that was a good combo. That's happy little colors there. So I almost feel a little bit more white in there. And in this tree, we're going to add a little bit of gold eventually too. So I'm just going over with some white. And the reason I'm doing the white is just to kind of give some little highlights. I want this tree to look like she's alive within, like she's giving off some electricity. And we're going to put a little bit more of that indigo in. And this is a really fun way to get some foliage. Just allows you to kind of not have to be too serious about it. And again, when I'm dabbing, I'm just twisting and turning so that the colors are kind of okay. And then I'm going to find the magic, the piñata. Oh, I got a little purple guy down here, so we're going to have to make that into something there. All right, so with the gold, I'm just going to put a little bit of that on my dabber, and then we're going to go in and make it look like we got some little highlights. So don't go too crazy with the gold to start, just a little bit, just to start popping it in. And you might not see too much at first, because the metallics are a little different how they show up. Okay, she's a happy little tree. Okay, I don't want to overdo it because if I do too much dabbing, you're going to lose all your little textures there. So now let's come back over, and we're getting a clean brush, a little bit of alcohol, and we're going to, so when you have those little random drops of color, people panic. Don't panic. We just take our brush and we just work that right in like she was meant to be there. And we just needed some purple down here is what it's saying. Perfect. Blend her in. And there we go. And I love that about the inks. Like, you just kind of say, okay, all right, we're going to put another kind of mountain range back here in our other world down below. And what else are we going to do? We're going to maybe build up this side a little bit more. Now I kind of like this white part here, so I don't think I'm going to change that, maybe soften that edge a little bit, but I really do kind of like a little speck of white here and there just to kind of create some interest. All right, I'm going to come up to my sky and we're going to kind of create a little bit of an opening here that we can kind of maybe make it look like we got some light coming in. Play around with that texture. And that's the thing, you can create texture just by touching down with some alcohol on the existing colors. The other thing we can do is make it look like we got some branches coming out of here, that the tree of life is expanding beyond where she started. And start tapping out like she grew outside of her world. She's going into the next world. And this here, I'm just trying to lift some ink up just to kind of create the illusion of some growth of the tree outside of its little world. And I think I'm going to take off a little bit more color up top here because I just want this to be a little bit lighter. So I'm just moving it around and picking up some ink. And I'm pushing some of that black up a little bit It's getting a little too dark there, and I think I'm even going to go and work it up a little bit and give it some texture. It's just a little too solid there. Okay, so I want to work a little bit on my tree, but you can see how easy that comes to be. So once you kind of create that circle, it gives you that illusion, and then you can kind of work on the outside edge a little. You can darken it. You can even go in with some of the gold if you wanted it to look like it had a shimmer. You can add some color in there. You can darken it. It's a really fun process. And with the tree, you can do the leaves any color you like. And I'm just going to tap in like some little stars. And even some below. And you can just keep going. There's really just a million things you can do within this little world. And you just keep playing, just keep tweaking, and there you have it. So with the bottom here, you can lighten it. You can add some colors in there if you wanted to get a little bit of more of a lift. You can add a lighter color and just come in and touch down. And those lighter colors will push those darker ones out. And just keep going until you get the outcome you were looking for. And you can see that what happens is we get these beautiful little colors once you add a little bit of color, because there's always those other pigments that are already laying down there. And maybe we got another mountain range up here that's in behind that one. And some little stars. Let's do some little dots. Or maybe they're little Orbeez. Who knows what they are, but they look cool, whatever it is. It's whatever you want it to be. You don't want those too symmetrical, so you just want to kind of tap until they're all nicely dispersed. And then you can go in, you can build on your tree, you can use markers in there. There are some other markers that I like to use. These guys here are a little bit of a shimmery guy, so if I wanted to go in, I could always take some lighter colors or some different colors and tap some metallics in there just for some little extra highlights. I could always go down in and put some of these little guys down into the lower area, and of course, just to combine everything all together, we can always tap up into the sky. And you can always take your markers and highlight your branches. There's lots of different things you can do. Best alcohol ink markers to use are pretty much, what do we got here? The Copics. They all vary in different style. You can get your ones from the dollar store. They all work. So it's just personal preference. And sometimes you just have to experiment with the different ones to know which ones you're gonna like. But anyways, that's pretty much that in a nutshell. The tree of life in its own little world. And you can just keep playing with that until you get your desired outcome. And just know that there is no wrong tree. You just let it happen, and the more you grow your trees, the more they become magical. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you like what you saw today, please like, subscribe, and share, and please join us again. Thank you.